Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Donna Feazell, and I'm your host of The Edge on IC Radio, your source for news and entertainment. You can also find us on television, channel 182 on Charter Communications. That's North Alabama. You can also find us syndicated on Abundance TV, which is found on Roku, Apple TV, and Amazon Fire. Very pleased to have with me a very special guest, very special friend. His name is Alan Mendenhall. He has been a guest on the show for many, many years now, and we always look forward to financial guidance through Alan Mendenhall. And Alan, you are with Troy University. Shall I just read off this entire list of your accomplishments? I've got to, because you won't do it. So let me do this. This is why you need to listen to Alan today. Associate Dean, Sorrell College of Business at Troy University, and it goes on down. Policy advisor at the Heartland Institute, a former publisher. You're also an artist, author, Southern Literary Review, former trustee at the Philadelphia Society, former executive director, CEO at the Blackstone and Burke Center of Law and Liberty, and the list just goes on. And your accomplishments are outstanding, which is why you're my only financial guy.
Well, thanks, Donna. I'm sure there are plenty of financial gurus out there that are far more expert than I am, but it's an honor to be on the show.
Well, we were honored that you'll be with us. I wanted to mention this. I check out all the blogs. I mean, I'm a conservative, but I also check out the liberals, and just to see what's going on. You need to know your enemy. That's what you do to be successful. But what I'm seeing is on the conservative blogs, they're talking about the economy and, how they have their gardens and they're doing all this stuff like I'm doing, just like normal people would definitely be doing. But on the liberal blogs, I'm seeing they say we're having the best economy we've ever had. Bidenomics is working. I don't know what planet they're on, but that's not the way it is here.
Yeah, no, I think that is false. I think most people are feeling an economic downturn. I mean, the COVID-19 pandemic had severe economic consequences. We pumped a lot of money into we pumped up the supply of money. Whenever you do that, you devalue the currency. We had a period of inflation in 2021 that continued on until recently and may still be continuing on. I think people are still feeling effects of that. The Federal Reserve continues to raise interest rates. So if you are a home buyer now, you're going to be getting a much higher mortgage payment, or you're going to be paying a lot more in interest. And I think in general, opinion polls suggest that the American people aren't buying into the Bidenomics. They think that economics is a top concern going into the next election. Things that Biden tried to do to be popular were, a child tax credit as part of the American Rescue Plan, and those sorts of things haven't had a significant effect. Of course, other economic factors would be the war in Ukraine has had an effect on, for example, supply chains, which that supply chain crisis has continued to go on. And that's, of course, in part due to COVID. It's in part due to the Russian invasion of Ukraine and the slowing of shipments and worldwide shortages. So, there are a variety of factors there, and Biden's handling of the economy continues to be viewed negatively. I mean, people associate the Biden administration with, with vaccine efforts and with student loan bailouts and increasing the national minimum wage and the American Rescue Plan and the Infrastructure Investment Jobs Act and Inflation Reduction Act, but when you look into these things, you see a lot of grift, a lot of efforts to subsidize green energy projects and ESG related goals and things that most Americans really don't care about. I know the Richmond, north of Richmond song. I don't know if you've heard that, but that resonates with people far more than sort of these efforts to align U.S. economic incentives with UN Sustainability Development Goals and things like that. So people people care more about what's going on in their own backyard, their own neighborhoods, their own regions and communities. And, they're not so interested in, reducing their carbon footprint to some sort of vague international standard that is not actually part of United States law.
I totally agree. Now, I've got to say this. We haven't really been hit that much, but now we're on a farm. It's a working farm. And when people were paying $7 a dozen for eggs, we had free eggs. And, the little things that we've done to make it work. And, we're not paying the high grocery prices, but at the pump we're paying. And I really don't appreciate that at all. So we're all affected by it.
Right. Yeah. No doubt. I like I said, I think, the U.S. economy is perennially an important issue in any sort of presidential election period. We have the second largest purchasing power of any, nation in the world, behind China, but we are, the seventh highest per capita GDP. We're a highly advanced economy. We're one of the most important economies in the world. We still trade with many partners, including Japan and Germany, South Korea. We're sort of divesting slowly from China, but this presents opportunities for us to work with partners in Latin America. In the Manuel H. Johnson Center here at Troy University, we've actually begun to recruit from Latin American countries. In particular, Guatemala, there's a university there called the Universidad Francisco Marroquín that is based on sort of free market principles and operates as a private business, and is sort of like the Harvard Yale of Guatemala. So it's a little different from our system here, where our politicians, our conservative politicians, sort of grudgingly send their students to Harvard and Yale and think, we have to send them to those left-wing institutions. Whereas in Guatemala, you've got all these left-wing politicians that are like, we have to send our students to this conservative Ivy League, here in Guatemala. But at any rate, that's been an interesting partnership. We're recruiting another student from there right now, and I think there's some promising prospects. The Troy has closed up its Confucius Institute, and so we no longer have that. And I think there will be some opportunities to sort of turn toward our neighbors to the south and cultivate those relationships before places like China and Russia do that. China and Russia are trying to cultivate relationships in Latin America and develop, basically develop partnerships with local economies there and subsidize different projects to buy goodwill. And that's problematic for us in the United States, and we need to be cultivating those relationships with our neighbors.
Sometimes life in cycles it's just like it goes into a full cycle. You'll see old things renewing that used to be back in 100 years ago. When the Industrial Revolution, before that happened, people had little pop-up businesses at home. You'd have your guy who worked, with, just like leather working or, just different little things like that. And there were lots of little small businesses all over the place. And sometimes I think the Industrial Revolution was a bad thing for us. But because of COVID, a lot of folks now are working at home. I would have never thought I would be operating my show at a studio on the farm. Because of COVID, a lot of things have happened. Do you feel like we're making a full cycle back to that again? Maybe.
Well, I think part of the problem, I wouldn't identify the problem with the Industrial Revolution so much as I would with just over-regulation. We have burdensome regulations, and I understand the desire for licensing, but occupational licensing, I believe, has gotten out of control. The story of how Chicken Salad Chick developed is a fascinating case in point. It was, it's a chain now, but it started in Auburn, and the lady who founded it was just making chicken salad sandwiches out of her home and selling it. And then all of a sudden the health inspector or the city or whoever it was shows up at the door and says, "You're going to get fined. You can't do this." And she said, "No, why not? I'm making chicken salad, and you don't have an approved kitchen. This is not a commercial space," and all these kinds of things. So she had to create a business and formalize it and get all these licenses and expand the kitchen and all these things. But really, was that necessary? No, it really wasn't. All these were were barriers to entry to prevent people from entering into the marketplace and competing. What these are designed to do, these occupational licensing regimes, is protect incumbent firms. They're designed to protect the people who already are established, so that you can't get these new up and comers. You don't have to compete with the entrepreneurs and the innovators. And another sort of problematic example is we had some issues with daycares in Alabama a few years ago, and they were serious, very serious problems. Children being abused in daycares, and well-meaning people hoping to do the right thing wanted to increase the licensing requirements for daycare. And that seemed like a great idea. But what it ends up doing, especially in poor African-American communities, is now, instead of having some mom who could stay at home with all these children, now she's poor and she can't afford to comply with all these regulations. She doesn't know how to read and interpret all these regulations. She knows how to take care of kids just fine, but now she can no longer operate a daycare. So now she's got no business. And the kids who would have been under her supervision and care now have no daycare. So now they're wandering the streets and they're getting in trouble and they're doing things because they're not under supervision. And so these sort of licensing requirements have unintended consequences that disproportionately impact the poorest communities, which in Alabama happen to be, minority communities, and largely communities in like the Black Belt, for instance. And so now, instead of having that mom with gainful employment who could help all her friends and neighbors and maybe church members and watch these kids and have a source of revenue, now she's got no job. And the kids are out running the streets. And that's just an example of an unintended consequence. Now, how do you deal with the problem of abuse in daycare? So that's frankly, it's a cultural problem. A lot of the things that we try to solve by government are actually first cultural problems. They need to be solved at the level of culture. Government's not going to come in and transform our culture into something better. That's something that we have to do ourselves without looking to government to try to fix everything. We need to just look to each other, look to our neighbors, and try to cultivate a sense of community and try to figure out voluntarily how we can come together and correct some of our social maladies.
I totally agree. It's just a scary thing for a lot of folks who are in the political world for someone to be elected who is a businessman. And I'm not talking about just Donald Trump. I'm talking about other folks who have run for office as well.
Mm-hmm.
To me, that's the best choice because you've actually been through it. You've had to be in charge of payroll. You've had to do all these things that the government doesn't do.
Yeah.
And there's a thing called debit and credit. and I think that we've kind of lost our way in teaching that to our generation of children. And I'm not blaming the kids. I'm blaming schools. I'm blaming parents.
Yeah. There was an article sometime this year. I can't remember if it was the summer or if it was the spring, but it was in the Wall Street Journal. And it was about how Americans in their 30s were piling on debt. So millennials, the younger millennials, actually. They had just really high balances at either at the beginning of this year or the end of last year. I can't recall exactly when the story ran, as I say, but millennials are the largest demographic in our workforce. And, they began their careers right after that 2008 financial crisis. It was during the Great Recession. It was a period of low wages and high unemployment. And people were really struggling to find good jobs. And this generation, because of the high cost of college, a lot of them had taken on student loans, and they had student loan debt. Businesses during that time were freezing hiring. They were cutting staff. And the millennials just fell behind. So even as recently as the pandemic, there was a poll that said basically over half of adults between ages 18 and 29 still lived with their parents. And I don't actually think that that's necessarily a problem. I think that could be a good thing if we return to an era in which families lived closer together and helped each other. And if parents help their children at younger ages, even into adulthood, then those children, when they become adults and they age, can help their parents when they become elderly. And, I don't think there's anything wrong with that per se. I think it's frugal to do things like that and all that. But the point is that generation, which is actually my generation, I'm 40 years old, so I'm technically a millennial, but that generation is generally struggling and is way behind where their parents were when they were the same age. And again, part of it is the price of college. Federal student loan money has enabled universities to hike tuition prices to astronomical levels. And just the fact that millennials can't find jobs as easy as their parents did. A lot of them work sort of freelance and part-time gig jobs, and those don't have health insurance or benefits. And although there's more flexibility with those kinds of jobs, there's not really as much long-term stability. So mass student loan forgiveness isn't going to, it's not going to fix this problem. We really just, I'm going to sound like a broken record because I always sort of return to the same refrain, but I really do believe that the less government intervention into the economy, the fewer problems we're going to have writ large. And some of these problems result in the social problems we have.
I agree. But you're always going to tick some group off. I mean, always. Okay, so you pay off the college loan debt to students. What about the people like me? Yeah. I mean, the people who worked while they went to college and paid it as we went. I mean, what about us? Yeah. So we feel like, we're being...
It's not fair.
It's not right. I mean,
it's not right. And if you look at the demographics of most of these people taking out student loans, they tend to be upper middle class white people who get good jobs. And so this is sort of a bailout of the already wealthy. This is a bailout of the people who are not the ones that were seeking, economic mobility, that, it's not the least of us, so to speak, as Obama used to say. And it's really, frankly, it's unfair. Think about the people that joined the military, put their life on the line so that the military would pay for their college. Or people who's, even if you're a parent who paid your child's tuition, why would you have done that if you could have just sent your kid to college and had the taxpayers bail them out? I mean, it's just, it's so fundamentally unfair and so obviously unfair. Now, do I think the system of university of higher education is problematic and partly to blame? Yeah, I think you can put a lot of blame on sort of the greed. What's ironic is that the industry that sort of decries American greed the most is the greediest of them all. The higher education industry is corrupt, and it hiked tuition levels based on these federal student loan money to astronomical levels. It hired bloated administrative staff, and now you can be a DEI officer at a university and make $300,000 to really just go in and politicize the classroom and the university experience. And you're not actually doing anything to improve social relations or social harmony when you do that. You're stirring up trouble. And so you've got these DEI officers at universities all over the place stirring up trouble, causing poisonous culture, trying to divide people. And that's not going to be long-term very beneficial to the institution. At Troy, we don't have a DEI officer, and we actually have a far more diverse student body than Auburn or Alabama, far, 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 far more. Mm-hmm. And we do it because we deliver quality goods and services. We do what we say we're going to do. We educate people, and we sincerely care about our students. We don't have to politicize things or get into sort of hot button social issues that are outside of our purview. We just do what we're supposed to do. And in the business school in particular, which I can speak to directly, we teach accounting, we teach marketing, we teach economics, we teach, insurance, we teach what we're supposed to teach. And we don't get into politics that is sort of outside the scope. You always have to get into politics to some degree because politics is just part of life, but not in, we don't have to, our faculty generally don't drift into radicalism or activism in the classroom. And they certainly have the academic freedom. No one's telling them you can't, but they are, just the culture we've developed here, the organizational culture is such that, people want to treat everybody well. And in a true sense of belonging, not like the DEI, diversity, equity, inclusion, where the inclusion is more about exclusion than it is inclusion. We cultivate a sense of belonging by welcoming diverse viewpoints and trying our hardest not to impose a rigid ideological uniformity on the students.
I find that really interesting. I mean, I want to know everybody's viewpoint. I want to know why they tick. I want to, because I interview everybody here. I just want to know. And, I do have to ask questions about the economy when people, I'm beginning to think some of this could be bots. You know what I mean? Who are coming up with these opinions. Whereas I can't see a real world person who's really thinking we have a good economy right now. But there are things that we can do. I mean, my grandparents survived the Depression, and he paid this farm. My granddad paid this farm off in 2 years.
Wow.
And I think it was like a 10-year mortgage. Of course, it was $5,000 for the farm back then. We paid a whole lot more than $5,000.
So wait, do you live on your grandfather's farm?
Oh, yeah, we bought the farm.
Yeah,
we did. Nobody wanted it. And so Phil and I were living in Charlotte, North Carolina, and Phil retired. Well, he thinks he retired. He didn't really retire. He's running.
Yeah, he's sitting there listening to the show, shaking his head right now. I'm sure that
you call that retiring.
He might quit right now, walk right out on you, and leave you to do all this tech stuff on your own.
Oh, this is exactly what he loves doing. So he was with a company called Things Remembered. And so he had taken a job promotion, took us from Alabama to Charlotte, North Carolina. So he retired, and he said, you've always said in the back of your mind you'd like to buy your grandparents' farm, and it's just sitting there. And I said, let's buy it. So we did. It's 38 acres. We spent a lot more than $5,000 for it. My granddad paid $5,000 back in 1938.
Wow. Well, I knew you lived on the farm. I just didn't know it was your grandfather's.
Oh, yeah. And we're finding all kinds of treasures out here.
Oh, really? Do you ever go out with the metal detector and see what you can get? Oh, wow. How about that?
Yeah, we have found pieces of china that, my great grandmother had.
Wait,
and
where?
Just in the barn.
Wow.
I mean, it's a treasure hunt to me. I don't know why my siblings didn't want it. It had been offered to my brother, and he said, I don't want a farm. I don't want a bunch of land to have to keep up with. But what we do, I have a cousin. It's one of my first cousins. And so he has cattle. And so I rent out the land, for most of the land to him. So that's upkeep. I get to look at the cows.
Yeah.
Without be friends with them. Of course, Phil has named them sirloin. You know how Phil is. So we get that advantage. So it's smart on our end because we don't have the upkeep. We get the land. We get to look at it. It's beautiful. Yeah. We get to go out there. We go to the pond, fish, and all this kind of stuff without the upkeep because my cousin's cows.
Well, we need to have a conversation because, my wife grew up on a farm and would like for us to move to a farm. Unfortunately, that type of property in and around the Auburn area is incredibly expensive. So we'd probably have to go a little bit outside of that. But as you could probably guess, I don't have a lot of farming experience. So
neither did Phil, and he is loving it. I mean, see, his dad was a minister, and they traveled from church to church when he was growing up. They did live out in the country, gardening and things like that. But as far as having cattle and things like pigs, but this is a working farm. My granddad had pigs and chickens, and
I love it.
Cows
well, Emily has quite a few chickens. She has silkies, and if you know anybody who wants to buy silkies, she's always getting new silkies. It's funny how that happens. They lay eggs, and then there are a bunch of new ones. And
I bet you guys weren't paying $7 a dozen for eggs.
No. Well, what's interesting is she doesn't like to kill the eggs. She likes to let them grow, and hatch and become chicks. So we have a lot of chickens. I don't even know what number we're at, but we've been giving them away. There were over 50, and we keep giving them away. And silkies, I mean, I think she paid a few $100 for each of the first like 3 or 4 that she got. Mm-hmm. And now we've got so many, I'm thinking, well, you should be selling these for $300 or $400.
If we lived closer, I'd be buying some of them. I think silkies are beautiful.
Oh, they're funny. They look like little Dr. Seuss characters, with the little fluff balls and stuff.
Absolutely. You know what, Alan? We have to go into a commercial break.
Okay.
And we'll be right back. How did we get talking about silkies? I think I started that. We'll be right back. At Lamone's Mexican Restaurant, located in Henniger, Alabama, and voted Best Mexican Restaurant of DeKalb County, Alabama 2020, we're here to serve you with authentic Mexican cuisine. Order easily online by going to lamonsmex.com or call 256-657-3999 to place your order. We're open Sunday through Thursday, 11 a.m. to 9 p.m. and Friday and Saturday, 11 a.m. to 10 p.m. Whether you're celebrating a cozy date night for two or a celebration for a crowd, at Lamone's you'll love our atmosphere and friendly servers. Thank you for dining with Lamone's Mexican Restaurant.
You have been at this for 12 years. Why are you doing it? Because God's children are not for sale.
Rated PG-13.
At Liberty Bank, we're all about community. Whether it's to help with a charity fundraiser or help families in need, toys at Christmas, or a local football team, we're here for you. You see, we realize the importance of family. Sometimes it's to build a new home or necessary home repairs. We're here for you. If you like the feel of a small town bank with all the conveniences of a big city bank, we're here to serve you. You will find us at any of our convenient locations in DeKalb, Marshall, Etowah, and Blount counties in North Alabama. You can call and speak with any of our friendly staff at 256-659-2175 or check us out on the web at libertybankal.com. And thank you for your support of our community. Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender. Let Rhonda at Rhonda's Elite Tax LLC take the burden off you for all your tax needs. I know because Rhonda has been taking care of my business since 2013. I feel Rhonda works for me because she knows the direct questions to ask to better benefit my unique business in order for me to get back the biggest refund possible. Rhonda is an ongoing student, and she knows tax laws are in a constant change every year. Call 256-281-9903 for an appointment to take the dread out of getting your taxes done. Rhonda is located at 11968 U.S. Highway 431 in Boaz. Again, that number is 256-281-9903. And let Rhonda's Elite Tax LLC champion your personal and business taxes. Jeff McCurdy of the McCurdy Law Firm has been a public service of this area for over 10 years. McCurdy, a member of the Henniger City Council, serves as prosecutor for the town of Sylvania and was named public defender for the city of Rainsville. The McCurdy Law Firm is located at 17326 Alabama Highway 75 in Henniger to better represent his Jackson and DeKalb County clients. If you need to be represented by a true public servant with proven success, call Jeff at 256-996-8701 or send a private email to mccurdylawfirm@gmail.com. No representation is made that the legal services performed is greater than the legal services performed by other lawyers. The Hatter Cafe and Country Inn is nestled in the northeast corner of Alabama the Beautiful in the delightful town of Mentone. We're located on top of scenic Lookout Mountain near Little River and DeSoto State Park and located only 5 minutes from shopping and restaurants. There is also a nearby community walking path and golf course. We welcome everyone through the doors and we are committed to outstanding service for all guests. At the Hatter Cafe and Country Inn, we invite people from all walks of life to come and get away from it all, enjoy the open spaces, treetop views, fresh, clean air, and experience Southern hospitality at its finest. We look forward to hosting you. To reserve a special event, or if you would love a special getaway at the Country Inn, you can call us at 256-634-2018. We are back. My name is Donna, and I am your host of The Edge on IC Radio, your source for news and entertainment. You can find us on television, channel 182 on Charter Communications and Abundance Television, found on Roku, Apple TV, and Amazon Fire. I have Alan Mendenhall with me right now. Alan Mendenhall has been a guest on this show for many, many years, and we feel honored that he'll spend some time with us. Let's talk a little bit about what you do at Troy University. And by the way, thank you for all you do. I feel like you're helping a whole generation of students.
Oh, well, thank you, Donna. That's kind of you to say. Well, I mean, I do a few things. So I'm Associate Dean of the Business School and Executive Director of the Manuel H. Johnson Center. And the business school capacity, I do a lot of public relations, external relations, and public outfacing, and oversee some of the public outreach that the business school does. On the Johnson Center side, I direct the Johnson Center, and it's a free market educational center and research center. We have a master's program in economics, and every student who goes through that program receives full tuition scholarship, and we pay their tuition and fees, and we also pay them to be graduate assistants. So they are assigned to a faculty member, and they do research for that faculty member. But it's a great option for people that maybe got interested in economics but didn't major in economics, or someone that's interested in pursuing a PhD but isn't quite sure and wants to, try something out that's not as great of a commitment as a doctoral program. And we are unashamedly free market. We teach free market principles. We teach Austrian economics. We teach public choice economics, and we have very generous donors who make this possible so that our students can attend for at no cost to them. And it's been a really rewarding and fulfilling center to run. And we will be doing another big conference. We do a big conference every year. We'll be doing another one this year. We're toying with different ideas for it, whether we're going to try to tackle school choice or whether we're going to focus on sort of bigger, more national economic issues in light of the presidential election in 2024. So we'll see what we decide to do on that.
Yeah, wow. We got a lot of things that could be happening in the next couple of years with Donald Trump. And how do you think about that whole fiasco there in Georgia?
Oh, gosh. Yeah, I mean, it's odd to have sort of a local prosecutor on such a national issue. And, if anything, this is going to help Donald Trump because it fits his narrative. It does every time anyway. It fits his narrative that I'm a victim of the system and this is a witch hunt and people are out to get me. And then boom, someone does exactly what he says is happening. They're playing right into his hands. They are. They really are. And, I'll be interested to see, as you and I sit here, I'm not sure when this show will air, but as you and I sit here, we are just ahead of the first presidential debates, and Trump will not be participating in those, or at least he says he won't, unless he makes some sort of surprise visit. It change his mind. It wouldn't surprise me to see him like parachute in or something like in the middle of the debate, but or do a flyover on a private jet and not actually come in, but just do a flyover and do the writing thing in the sky, just like write Trump in the sky over the election or over the debate. But it will be interesting to see what those aspiring candidates say about Trump. And of course, Chris Christie has chosen his path. He's going to attack Trump. But what will the others say? Will they say that they plan to pardon Trump if they're elected. Will they plan to support Trump during the prosecution? I don't know. I have no idea what they're going to say.
Yeah, but you know something, if Trump decides to do something, say, with Twitter or with X, if he decides to do something there that night, I don't think there's going to be any viewership.
Oh, yeah, I know. Well, you know, you remember the old WWF wrestling, I guess it's WWE now, where all of a sudden, like, some wrestler comes in and makes an appearance and like, oh, here comes Stone Cold Steve Austin. Where is he coming from? He's not supposed to be wrestling tonight. And then like the spotlight goes on him. It's kind of like that, you know, like it's kind of like that. Like, oh, here comes Goldberg. He wasn't even supposed to be here. He's going to go spear somebody, you know, like that's what it's going to be like if he were to come in the middle of it. Oh, who knows? I
think Trump could just choose somebody. I think he could just choose maybe, I don't know, anybody. He could choose Twitter, X, and just decide, hey, I think I'm just going to, he'll take away all the viewership wherever he goes.
Yeah. Well, and I think, you know, an exciting person to watch is Vivek Ramaswamy. And I think he's positioning himself as a potential VP on Trump's ticket.
I feel exactly the same way.
And I think that would be a good choice, too. I think he's a polished, young, successful person who is speaking a unique message, but one that resonates with people.
Mm-hmm. But I don't think he's ready to be president yet. I think he needs to be VP, but I think he would be a strong one. I don't think he would be weak like we've seen in recent years.
I think so. And he's young enough that he can be charismatic and public without detracting from Trump's image. You know, Trump doesn't want to, he wants to be the highlight and he wants to be the one who sparkles. Well, Ramaswamy is young enough that he can sort of sparkle and do his own thing and still be seen as, you know, the subordinate to the president. You know, it's there's going to be no question who the president would be in that arrangement. So, you know, that's a dynamic that people aren't really talking about.
I think that he knows that he needs to let Trump shine right now because he can shine later. Right. And I think that's a smart move. So do you think Trump really wants to have his pictures taken in handcuffs? Do you think he wants to be arrested?
I don't know. I mean, it's certainly not a flattering image, but I don't know.
But you know what? If I were in his shoes, I know this sounds strange, but if I were in his shoes, I would want him to. Yeah, I mean, that's just going to add more fuel. I mean, there'll be T-shirts all over the place, free Trump, all this stuff, you know, all that would be happening. It's backfiring. I mean, who is the person who comes up with these ideas for the Democrats? I mean, it's like every single thing they're doing is failing.
And in particular, what's so problematic about it is it's all predicated on, you know, claims of election fraud and irregularities and et cetera, et cetera. Well, if that was the case, are we going to go arrest Stacey Abrams for what she said after her election? Are we going to go arrest and lock up Hillary Clinton for what she said about the Russian interference in the election and how that election was stolen? I mean, Trump's just doing what the Democratic politicians did in the preceding elections before, you know, the preceding elections. And so, you know, it's just a weaponization of the justice system. And you know, when you start seeing that, we really start looking like Banana Republic when you see political parties trying to harness the apparatus of government to prosecute political opponents. That is a frightening situation.
Yeah, but you have to think ahead. I mean, if you're on the other team, you're starting this stuff. Will that not happen to you somewhere down the line?
I mean, how in the world is Hunter Biden not in jail? I mean, this is the double standard hypocrisy thing that once you start going down this road, you know, if Republicans get elected, you're going to see, I mean, Hunter Biden's going to go to jail. I mean, and he should. Actually, he really should. I mean, it's an injustice that he is not.
And the big man should be too.
And the big man, we'll wait and see what comes out of this. You know, I mean, it's just how you get to be wealthy like the Bidens through politics is is so wrong and so corrupt. You do not get into politics to get wealthy. And that's what so many of these politicians do. And the fact that they find ways to get wealthy through politics is shocking and a stain and blight on our system.
But you know something? Okay, so everybody's talking about all the money it's going to cost Trump. But I've got to say something. The Democrats are actually helping. He's not having to pay for advertising. The advertising he gets is Super Bowl quality. I mean, it's if you had to pay for all of this, so he's got plenty of money to spend. I mean, you know, people keep going to run out of money. No, he's not, because he's not having to pay for advertising at all. The Democrats are helping him.
Yeah, he stays on front page news at all times. I mean, it's true. He's constantly on the front page, and never.
That's saving billions of dollars that he can use in his legal fight.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, and he's still attracting crowds. Were you in Montgomery a couple of weeks ago when Trump was? I
was not, and I can't recall where I was, but I had some kind of conflict when he came in and spoke to Alabama Republican Party. Is that what you're talking about? The Friday night? There. I guess it was maybe 3 Fridays ago, something like that.
I was there. Mary Ann Cole and I went, and of course you can only have they sold out tickets. I mean, and it's, you know, fire marshal and all this kind of stuff. You can only have so many people in the room. It was crowded. I mean, it was just, you know,
they had to change venues.
Oh my goodness. What was so hilarious is there were a lot of people outside who knew they couldn't come in. They just wanted to get a glimpse of him coming in.
Oh, wow.
That's the power he has. And so, and then I think about Joe Biden. I live in a small town here. I think maybe we could fit all of his fans into the lunchroom at Geraldine High School.
Yeah, he came here. He came here. He was right down the road here a few months ago, right down 231 from where I sit. And there was nobody.
Well, this is the Democrats' way. So let me tell you what happened. So the Democratic convention was held in Charlotte, North Carolina, and Phil and I were living there at the time. So my family freaks out at any kind of a tornado warning or anything like that. They just go nuts. So my mother called. They were at the doctor's office, and on the news, they had this big thing that Charlotte, North Carolina was in this tornado warning, thunderstorm warning. All the stuff was happening, thunderstorm warning to Charlotte, like we were going to be blown off of planet Earth. And so this is we all of my even my liberal friends laughed at this in Charlotte. Okay, so it was, they were going to have it at the football stadium, the Panthers football stadium. Well, it's an outside venue, so they couldn't fill up the stadium. There were not enough people who were coming to the convention, so they fabricated this thunderstorm coming up so they could move it to the cricket arena, which is like a quarter of the size of the Panther Stadium. And so mother calls freaking out, you better take cover. And I didn't even know I was working. I had my show. I didn't know what was going on. And so she said, there are tornado warnings out. You'd better take cover. I know how you are. You want to film it. And I said, what are you talking about? There are no tornado warnings out here. And I looked outside. I said, it's as clear as it can be. The most beautiful blue sky you've ever seen. I even had to text pictures to prove it to her. I was trying to, so she wouldn't worry. I said, Mother, there are no tornado warnings out. So then I thought, wait a minute, let's check the news. So Phil checked it, and he said, yeah, what it is they can't fill up the Panther Stadium. So they're fabricating this idea that there are thunderstorm warnings out, tornado possibilities out there. And then I was a member of the Tea Party in Charlotte, and so liberal news there. And so Phil calls, and he said, you better get home. And I said, for what reason? This was like there was no yelling, no screaming. It was peaceful. Sarah Palin was there. I mean, they were rooting for her, clapping. By the way, this woman is not stupid. Right. I know that's what the media says she's not. She's very intelligent. So he said, well, I'm looking at footage right now where people are laying down. They're having to carry them off of looks like you're on a field somewhere. And I said, we're at the courthouse. I said, that's not happening. So I don't know where they were getting this footage from.
Yeah.
So I had to do a video to let Phil see that, look, nothing is happening.
Yeah,
There's failing up there. I mean, nothing is happening here.
that is so interesting.
So much is fabricated, so much that people are seeing on the news, it's not true.
Yeah, there's a French philosopher. He's been dead for, I don't know, for several years now. His name is Jean Beauregard, and he wrote about hyperreality and the way the media can cycle imagery and create an alternative reality, essentially, that simulates reality but is not reality. And very interesting, because we seem to see hyperreality all the time, and the media just can be very dishonest. I just remember, even at a really small scale, a local Atlanta news outlet, when I was in private practice in Atlanta, I did I did a lot of kind of debt collections work, not enjoyable work, but there was one particular debtor who was living a pretty, I won't say extravagant lifestyle, but she was doing just fine, and she was a very attractive lady, and her condo association was trying to foreclose on her because she hadn't paid her condominium assessments in however many years it had been. And this news reporter was a young guy and came in and ran this sob story, but you could tell that he clearly was posturing and trying to sort of show off for this attractive woman and say, "Oh, look what I can do for you. I can bring your story to the." But when you looked at the law, it's like, well, wait a second. She is living here and she's breaching her contract. She hasn't paid. She owes thousands of dollars. Like, what? She's clearly, living a lifestyle. She's got this BMW. She's got like what? What? Something's not right. She's violating the law and she's breaching the contract. This isn't a sob story. Like, the victim is, the condominium association here. But it was just an example. We didn't talk to the media or do anything, but it's just an example of like, well, if you just looked into this, it's
red
clear.
Flags everywhere. Red flags.
Yeah. The facts were the facts, and they weren't on her side, but she was a pretty lady. So she kind of, she got a news story in her favor, but she ended up losing the lawsuit because the law was what the law was, and she wasn't paying.
Absolutely. These things happen, and I would like to see it beginning in elementary school. I would love to see this happen. I would love to see finances talk. I'm not like on college level, but I'm just talking the very basics. 2 + 2 is 4. It used to be. Just basics on not overspending.
Right.
I'll give you some examples. Okay, so I had to cover an event one time it was at the food stamp office many years ago. And so I was there. But what I was noticing is women were coming in with fake fingernails up to here. You had money to spend on that. They were, their hair extravagant, nice clothes, Coach bags.
Yeah.
I even saw a lady who had a Louis Vuitton handbag, and it was real. I know the real ones from the fake ones, I can tell.
Yeah.
And so I would have been, had I worked at that office, I would have said, how are you affording all of that, but you can't feed your kids?
Yeah.
I mean, where are you applying for the food stamp program? But nobody was questioning anybody.
There was a 2019 Gallup poll, and it generated a lot of attention, that said millennials viewed socialism favorably or something like that. But it also said like 83% viewed free enterprise favorably. So it's hard to draw too much of a conclusion from that poll, other than maybe people don't understand what free enterprise is or what socialism is. They don't understand.
Yeah.
But you're right. I mean, these younger generations, they need to learn how to budget, save, and invest. They need to ensure that their expenses don't exceed incomes. They need to put away from retirement, even if retirement seems like a long way off. They need to not go crazy on credit cards. If they get tax refunds, which many of them do because they don't make enough money to owe on taxes, then they should save or invest them rather than like, okay, I'm going to go go to Atlantis on my vacation now with my thing, or as the example, I don't know if we were talking about this on the show or before the show, but you were mentioning one of your relatives that was just paying extra on a mortgage every month and paid off the mortgage in 10 years when it was a 30-year mortgage. How awesome is that? That's amazing. But instead you'll see these young people like the Louis Vuitton purse. They're spending money on luxury goods, exotic vacations. But, what happens if the car breaks down, or, the car needs a new engine, or you total the car and you may get some insurance money, but it's not enough to buy a new car. Like, what do you do when you have these emergencies? You have to have some kind of money put away, and you don't want to be house poor where you're buying a house you're spending so much on your mortgage that you're not packing away any money. So you're right. Just basic personal finance is something that young people need to learn. And at some level, I think they know it. They just aren't doing it.
Well, it could be parents have come to the rescue. I mean, like numerous times. And we never did that with Brad. He had to learn the hard way. But another thing you have to think about too, and this pertains to insurance, so we've had some pretty rough weather here in North Alabama the past few days. Well, we have a leak. There's some roof damage. So we have a leak. So we instead of using our insurance, it's a small thing, but we believe in fixing it now before it gets worse. So this guy comes over and he said, I can do it for $200. And he's somebody highly recommended. He's somebody you can trust. And a lot of my neighbors have used him, so he's a good guy. And so we just said, I don't want to use my insurance. First of all, we have a high deductible, because it saves us monthly. You come out much better that way. But I don't want to use my insurance. Even if I had a low deductible, I wouldn't want to use it because here's what I know. When you use the insurance, they have to make a living. I mean, they have to make a profit. They're going to go up on your rates.
Mm-hmm.
So I'd rather not use it. It's there if something catastrophic happens.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. I remember going out of town and coming back in, and somehow our house had been flooded. This was many years ago. This is in my old house, but the water had gone in through the front door and the back door, and it had ruined the hardwood floor. But because of the way the hardwood floor was, you couldn't, and it was fake hardwood, you couldn't replace just that section without replacing the whole thing. So we had to have insurance come in and replace the whole floor. And then we couldn't get a quote for what the insurance check was for. No one could do the floor for that amount. So we had to petition for a higher amount in order to, anyway, but it was an ordeal, quite an ordeal. And
hope you don't have to use it.
Yeah. That's the kind of stuff you need to be packing away money for, and just in case.
Mm-hmm. Because it will happen. There's about a little bit over 3 minutes left in this segment.
Okay.
I'd love you to talk about your books. I got them all. I don't have the latest one. I got
well, there are two coming out. One is just a primer on ESG, which is the environmental, social, and governance and investing, and that's designed for business people. It will be a short book. I won't call it a pamphlet, but it'll be, because it's bigger than that. But it is a short little primer, something you could read ideally on a long plane flight, or if you have a full afternoon to sit down and do it, or a couple mornings over coffee. The other one is a novel, and I'm excited about it. It's called A Glooming Peace This Morning, and it takes place in a small southern town and involves a court case, and all of the main characters are young children, young boys. So it's a coming of age novel, and I'm excited about that one. That will be released in November, but I'm getting some advanced reader copies here soon.
That's awesome. Now, how can potential students get in contact with you guys? What's the process to attend your college?
Well, yeah, the easiest way is just to reach out to me. If you go to my website, allenmendenhall.com, ALLENMendenhall, there's a contact form there. You can reach out to me that way, and it will go straight to me. Of course, you can Google other ways of reaching out to me through Troy University. If you go to the Troy University website, you can find out about our particular program and the MA program. But always, my website's a great, easy way to get in touch with me. And you can always click on ads while you're on there too.
That helps as well. Alan, thank you so much for being on the show today. It's always a pleasure.
Thank you, Donna. I always enjoy being on. I really appreciate it.
I'll let you know when this is finished so you can go ahead and tag it on.
Sounds good.
Thank you so much for watching The Edge on IC Radio. My name is Donna, and I am your host. You can find us on television, channel 182, on Charter Communications and Abundance Television, found on Roku, Apple TV, and Amazon Fire. Again, thank you so much for watching.
Are you ready?
We all wonder what tomorrow will bring, but the future lays itself at the feet of the prepared and surrenders to the will of the persistent. It's not easy, but today shapes you so you can shape tomorrow. With Northeast Alabama Community College, when the future asks if you're ready, you can answer.
Yes.
Begin your future at Northeast Alabama Community College.
The only place I buy my beef is Lone Tree Ranch in Collinsville, Alabama. Their cattle is born and raised on their ranch, grass and grain fed, and you can feel confident when you serve your family and friends because their beef is all natural and no antibiotics or hormones are added. You can buy whole beef or perhaps go in with family or friends and buy half. Their customer service is number one as they take care of the delivery to their local processor and can deliver to your home for a small added fee. They also offer herd replacement heifers. I always call Lone Tree Ranch in Collinsville, Alabama for my beef specialty recipes and cookouts, and you can too. Food shortages are increasing, so buy local by calling 256-523-6462. That's 256-523-6462.
Wow, it's so soft and smooth.
It's cool to the touch. How did you do that?
Well, we took MyPillow's patented fill and combined it with this new technology that we didn't have back then when I invented MyPillow to bring you the best pillow in history, MyPillow 2.0. Because of all of you, MyPillow 2.0 has been a huge success, and now we're bringing you our best-selling Go Anywhere MyPillows with the same temperature-regulating technology. Made with my patented adjustable fill and brand new cooling fabric, they're truly the next generation of MyPillow. So go to MyPillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use your promo code to save over 60% on our MyPillow 2.0 4-pack special. You'll get 2 MyPillows and 2 Go Anywhere MyPillows, regular $259.92, now only $99.98. King size just $10 more. This is a limited time offer, so please order now.
Donna's Designs offers a line of handmade memorial, wedding, and keepsake jewelry that launched back in 1970. I'm a self-trained jewelry designer, and I will work closely with you to create unique designs you can love and treasure for years to come. Whether that be flowers that were used in a funeral arrangement or stones you found on the beach at a memorable trip, call me at 256-659-4319, and let's think of the possibilities. At Liberty Bank, we're all about community, whether it's to help with a charity fundraiser or help families in need. Toys at Christmas or a local football team, we're here for you. You see, we realize the importance of family. Sometimes it's to build a new home or necessary home repairs. We're here for you. If you like the feel of a small town bank with all the conveniences of a big city bank, we're here to serve you. You will find us at any of our convenient locations in DeKalb, Marshall, Etowah, and Blount counties in North Alabama. You can call and speak with any of our friendly staff at 256-659-2175 or check us out on the web at libertybankal.com. And thank you for your support of our community. Member FDIC Equal Housing Lender. The Hatter Cafe and Country Inn is nestled in the northeast corner of Alabama the Beautiful in the delightful town of Mentone. We're located on top of scenic Lookout Mountain near Little River and DeSoto State Park and located only 5 minutes from shopping and restaurants. There is also a nearby community walking path and golf course. We welcome everyone through the doors and we are committed to outstanding service for all guests. At the Hatter Cafe and Country Inn, we invite people from all walks of life to come and get away from it all, enjoy the open spaces, treetop views, fresh, clean air, and experience Southern hospitality at its finest. We look forward to hosting you. To reserve a special event, or if you would love a special getaway at the Country Inn, you can call us at 256-634-2018.